Misery takes place in Sidewinder, Colorado, with famous novelist Paul Sheldon, known for his books following a woman named Misery Chastain, finishing his new manuscript called Fast Cars. Once complete, he hits the road, but due to a blizzard, his car skates off the road and crashes, leaving him severely injured as he passes out. When Paul becomes conscious, he meets Annie Wilkes, a former nurse who found and healed him, who also happens to be his #1 fan. Meanwhile, Martha Sindel, Paul's agent, is worried about Paul's whereabouts and calls Buster, the sheriff of Sidewinder, to ask him to try and find him. Annie reads the new manuscript, and after seeing much profanity, she starts showing an easily angered side of her that makes Paul uneasy. Later, Annie buys the last entry of the Misery novels, her favorite of his works, and that night when she finally gets to the end, she goes berserk over Misery's death and turns violent on Paul. The next day, Annie takes Paul's manuscript and threatens him if he doesn't light it on the Bobby, so reluctantly, he complies. Annie eventually buys Paul a typewriter and forces him to write a new Misery novel that resurrects Misery. As Paul finishes the novel for Annie, he proposes a celebratory dinner where he takes a bunch of medicine he was given for his recovery and puts it into Annie's wine. Unfortunately, she is clumsy and spills the wine, thwarting his plan. Paul tries to escape the house while Annie is away, to which he's unsuccessful, but finds evidence of Annie's prior trial dealing with infants and their passing while she was a nurse. Paul takes a knife from the kitchen and hides it under his bed, but Annie ends up finding it and decides to tie him onto the bed and take a sledgehammer to his ankles as punishment. Sheriff Buster also ends up uncovering Annie's past and becomes suspicious of her involvement in Paul's disappearance. He visits her, but doesn't initially find Paul since he is taken to the basement. But Buster eventually finds him in there, and he is shot in the back by Annie. As Annie approaches Paul wanting to unalive him, he convinces her that he should first give Misery back to the world by finishing the novel to resurrect her. Paul tells Annie that he needs 3 things when finishing a book: a cigarette, a match, and Dom Perignon. And once finished, he uses these items to burn the book, which starts a fight against Annie, to which he uses the typewriter to eventually unalive her. Just kidding! He uses a pig statue to finish the job, ending Misery!